Alright, what's up guys? Today is the 2nd of April, or maybe even the 3rd by the time this video gets out, and I want to talk to you about realistically what actually did go in the game. Obviously, I've given you the news that SAB was dropped in for this April Fool's, but there were obviously some changes to the box and some other things to talk about going along with it. In particular, we had a points of interest stream, we had a bunch of really cool patch notes that I want to talk about, and there are new rewards associated with the box now, and ArenaNet have been very explicit about the way that SAB will work going forward. It's not all necessarily good news, so let's roll into it slowly. Now, first of all, I did really want to mention this, okay? ArenaNet put out some fake patch notes. This was a staple of what they used to do back during GW1, and I was really happy. In fact, I did a stream where I specifically said, oh, it's a shame that we didn't get any fake patch notes, and then they did actually manage to put them out. So they've got some, if you go online looking for what happened on April 1st, there's a chance, just a slim chance, you'll read such ludicrous things as a fully customable UI has been added with scripting support for Ada, Cobble, and Fortran. All of the aforementioned words there being things I have no idea what they are. All fine and masterwork gear now comes in blister packs. Blister packs must be triple clicked to open and have a chance to inflict bleeding. I've always enjoyed these. It shows ArenaNet have a sense of humor about themselves, but also it's kind of a bit of light for those who are completely embroiled in the cynicism and sadness that the devs do know what the issues with their game are. It's a chance for them to laugh at themselves and kind of show, you know, that maybe we can be lighthearted about it and they know what we're saying, right? Like, so it's a cool double whammy. There's obviously the full patch notes are on screen right now if you want to pause and read them, but also I'll drop a link down below for you guys if you want to, you know, dive into it a little bit more without actually having to pause. So let's talk about what went on the real patch notes, what actually changed. I'll give you guys the abridged version, but obviously Super Adventure Box came back to the game and it did have some changes. I'm going to talk about the most prominent of them first. Then we'll move on to talk about some of the other things that happened in addition. Now, number one, the main thing I think most players are going to notice is there are new shops. So shops were already available in SAB with the previous patches. You'd go there to buy upgrades and perks for your SAB character, you know, increase your storage of baubles or buy a slingshot, buy a torch, whatever. Well, now what you're going to find are furniture shops too. These are a little more hidden than the old shops, and they are tying into the guild halls. And the guild hall integration is actually really important because it's some of the only further development we're ever going to see on SAB. So, for example, when SAB first came out, they had like a secret room and or a secret shop, and then if you burned the rug of the secret shop and then blew your way through the floor of the secret shop, you'd drop down into another secret shop. And now in that shop inside a shop, there is another shop too. It's using the new UI and little achievement tips that we've had for a while now in the game, so you don't necessarily have to go to Delphi, guys. You can read, for example, one of the new secret shops is called Amazing Shop, and maze is all in caps, so clearly it's talking about a maze. So you go to the mazes and, you know, you fumble your way around. But these shops basically give you coins, furniture coins. It plays a very similar Mario sounding effect when you grab them, and these are traded in your guild hall for guild hall decorations that are Super Adventure Box themed. This is great. As you guys know, I've many times given my top 3 favorite ideas for new guild halls. One of them's Claw Island, one of them's that region in the Shiver Peaks, and the other one is a Super Adventure Box guild hall. They didn't quite go far enough to add a whole Super Adventure Box guild hall, but now that you can get Super Adventure Box related decorations, and these are some of the best decorations they've ever added, I'll explain why in a second, you can kind of recreate SAB with your friends in the hall. And there's a lot of important things. So if you guys check it out, here's a screenshot from Reddit the other day. So one of the first posts I saw of somebody attempting to do this. They said they spent about 900 gold on their project so far. But this actually seems a lot more reasonable than some of the other guild-related activities or ideas you can have. And that's because, obviously, we know in an upcoming patch very soon, ArenaNet are reducing the cost of scribing and stuff. And they've taken those ideas with the SAB furniture stuff. They seem to have hit some kind of a stride, might I add, with the way scribing and festival-based decorations work. The idea is you get some kind of token or something for the festival, and then you trade that for decorations, and then all those decorations, even if it doesn't really make any sense, build into other decorations for that festival, right? So let's put it into a real example. SAB, you trade these furniture tokens for clouds, and then you can, as a scribe, combine the clouds together to get a tree or mountains or grass or whatever. So really, thematically, it doesn't make any sense, but this format, I think, is what we're going to see them do for all future festivals. And it has been explicitly said that when SAB returns in future, the amount of SAB-related decorations is also going to increase each time. So we're going to increasingly be able to make more and more interesting SAB little worlds for ourselves. And that might be something people are very, very interested in. Now, why do I say that these decorations are some of the best they've ever done? It's not because it's SAB stuff and it's got like that weird, you know, very colorful 8-bitty style to them. It's because they are big. They're fairly easy to get, especially compared to the Heart of Thorns vanilla decorations we had, and they're big. For example, one of the main things I struggled with around Heart of Thorns release was building 2 floors to my arena. And we had to rely on these ridiculously expensive giant Winter's Day ice cubes because our actual Guildhall progression was quite new and we hadn't unlocked some of the vendors. We didn't have great access to scribing. But with the Super Adventure Box stuff, you can create these full-on floor pads that are designed to change your Guildhall floor into the Super Adventure Box style grass floor. And you can use these for flooring wherever you like by just sort of putting them in mid-air. This is really good because the main thing crippling Guildhalls at the moment is that global decoration cap. So the bigger each individual decoration, the more you can put in your hall and the more floor space you can cover. It's excellent. Then it ranges from like large mountains. The biggest thing is a giant golden toad. Hopefully there's some footage of that on in the background that you can eventually go for too. And yeah, as future years go by, hopefully this will continue to get better and better and better. In fact, we are specifically doing on the streams now an attempt at making a really cool guild hall based on Super Adventure Box stuff. And hopefully the fruits of those labors will become apparent if I do like a dedicated guild hall decoration video sometime in the future. I certainly have a lot of ideas about how they can improve that. So that's the main thing, furniture shops and the integration with the guild halls. There is another little thing as well. There's this thing called a Dusk coin. And what this does is if you get it in your inventory, I just randomly got it when I was loading into a Tribulation mode run of World 1 Zone 1, as it happens. It's a little coin that while you're in SAB, if you double click it, it changes the in-game SAB music, which is very 8-bit, to heavy metal remixes or just metal rocky remixes. These are actual tracks I talked about on videos a long time ago, fan-made, produced by a member of the community that the guys over at ArenaNet liked so much they wanted to incorporate it in-game. I'm a big fan of these metal tracks. I love them since the first time I heard them. I think that was really cool that the devs managed to get this cool like 2-week streak going with a member of the community, and we got some of this cool music in there. If, unlike me, you're not a fan of these tracks, you can just delete the coin and not have it, and then the music stays exactly the same. I gotta say, while I do like the feature, I do like kind of what it stands for as well, I don't really like how it automatically transitions the music whenever you get near a Tribulation cloud. These are like the big bad enemies during Tribulation mode. It really doesn't fit, and I would have rathered if that automatic swapping didn't happen and it was rather just a double click thing, but maybe I'm being a bit picky there. Come on, it's a cool little change and a nice addition. And so then really the last thing to talk about, the Kaiser weapons. So the story with SAB and its loot was you would get baubles in the game, and they were the currency for while you were actually in-game buying the in Super Adventure Box game perks. But then if you had loads of them in excess, you could leave the Super Adventure Box and trade them in for bauble bubbles. And those were for actual real tier loot, real tier weapons like the Super Adventure Box weapons. And we've known that the World 1 had the blue weapons, or you had like the set of blue weapons. Then if you did Tribulation mode World 1, you got green for the King Toad. Then if you did World 2, then you got yellow. And last time SAB was around through data mining, I believe we found a red set and a purple set. And obviously the devs had planned for a World 3 and a World 4. So it was kind of assumed that the next time we got more Super Adventure Box skins, they would be of those colors. Well, actually, we got an orange set. Now, this orange set, they're known as the Kaiser snake weapons, or just the Kaiser weapons. And these Kaiser weapons are really difficult to get. There are some new rare collections in the game. What you have to do is get every single green weapon for a chest that will give you a single Kaiser weapon. Then you have to get every single World 2 weapon, a yellow one, for another Kaiser weapon. So really, really, really difficult. Those are some of the main ways people are getting them, but when you get them, they are immediately of ascended quality. So actually quite useful if anybody's trying to get into raids, but you don't want to max out one of your weapons crafting disciplines or something like that. This could actually be quite a good way of getting one of those ascended weapons. There are 2 other alternate ways of doing it. Number 1, I believe, is like RNG, just getting lucky in tribulation mode. And then the final way, the way I'm planning on getting most of them, is if you do 8 days worth of Super Adventure Box dailies, which isn't too hard, and they've revamped the dailies, by the way, so that they're usually something quite interesting each time. If you do that, then you get a Kaiser weapon at the end. The problem with that, though, is the festival isn't going to last long enough that you could get 16 Kaiser weapons purely through the dailies. Essentially, what this means is if you want to get all 16 Kaiser weapons, you have to do a lot of SAB. A lot of SAB. In fact, there is a reward for getting all 16. It's a back piece. It's an orange back piece. Just in the same style as the other Super Adventure Box back pieces, but that's pretty heavy prestige right there. Now, the thing that really makes these quite special, aside from the fact that the Warhorn has a really hilarious sound effect to it that's super obnoxious and I desperately want for my Tempest, what makes these quite notable is the fact that they have auras in them. So since the Silver Wastes, we've had this idea of auras in the game. It began with the Preserved Queen Bee, where if you get a good drop, already in it could be an infusion that you can salvage out, and that infusion gives you some aesthetic thing. For example, when the raids came out, you got the Ghostly Infusion from the Gorseval fight. Well, so this is a Super Adventure Box aura you can get. How cool does that sound? And it's from these pretty rare, pretty difficult to get weapons. So obviously everyone's excited about it. Not only that, but it comes from, tribulation mode, which itself is quite difficult. So they're even a little bit of an indicator of skill. And then the unfortunate thing is, I've got to be honest, the auras are so small, they're just not exciting enough for me to really want to go for it, to get one of these weapons and salvage one of these auras out. People are turning around and saying, there are 2 different auras, there's one for each world. People are turning around and saying, oh yeah, but look, you can use both auras at once, they do stack. And then it looks ever so slightly better, but it's still not big enough incentive for me. So I guess as a player, I'm not very excited about them, but I do like the idea, right? I do still very much, I'm in that camp where I like these auras as more prestige and more aesthetic and more cosmetic things, rewards for players to go for cool things in the game. I like that format, that idea. I'm glad to see ArenaNet are taking it further. It's just the aura isn't visible enough, especially not for a player like me who mostly spends his time on Asura. On the one hand, I do understand why ArenaNet did it, though. They've done it because if they are going to take auras forward as a pretty big concept, maybe they want to make sure that, they're in check, that they're reined in, that they're not too crazy extreme. Otherwise, every single player in a few years' time are going to be these giant glowing balls of light as they move around with billions of auras. But then maybe there's an argument that people are already kind of in that camp anyway. But so yeah, there's your rewards. That's what the new ideas are with Super Adventure Box. That's the main changes. And so why do I say that the Guildhall decorations are so important? This quote that they are going to continue giving us more decorations in future years, this is really the only thing we've heard the devs are going to do to actually expand on Super Adventure Box. So World 3 and World 4, while they're visible there, while they're there on the world map in Super Adventure Box, while the devs clearly had plans and ideas for them once long ago, it's basically been said these aren't coming. Super Adventure Box now has a proper, well-understood place in the game. It is a festival. It will return every year around April Fool's, I guess. It's got a proper place, but is it going to be expanded on? No, it doesn't seem so. On the Points of Interest live stream, Josh had this to say.
Can we look forward to Worlds 3 and 4 in future years, now that this is an annual festival?
It takes 6 to 8 developers 4 to 6 months to make a world. And it's like, when you're working on Guild Wars 2, like, you have to have a healthy Guild Wars 2, and distributing the resources, it's so tricky to balance that. And so just realistically having a window of opportunity where we can afford to just throw 6 to 8 people away for 4 to 6 months, it's very unlikely. I mean, it's one of those things where we're not cutting off the option completely, but I would say chances are very slim.
And I mean, you can't really argue with him there. This is actually very, very close and very, very similar to the whole legendary weapons thing. It's just obviously people care a little bit less because SAB is ultimately, let's be honest, just a small part and a niche and a specific, very different area of Guild Wars 2 to the regular game. But so yeah, it's one of those things like, how can you have enough devs and manpower to justify building the additional worlds? he's obviously left the crack of the door open, suggesting that maybe eventually it will come back. But let's be real here. I think you're really kidding yourselves if you come out of a quote like that and you as the player take that to mean, look, clearly World 3 and 4 are going to come back. He's just saying that so that they can surprise us on April Fool's of next year. Look, guys, don't hold out too much hope. Essentially, we're going to get more Guildhall decorations, and we have to build World 3 and World 4 ourselves. Get on it, guys. I'll do videos of it when I see what you come out with. So yeah, the kind of sad thing about this, though, as well is, actually, if you guys remember, the last time Super Adventure Books was in the game, the start of World 3 actually was there. You fell down into the giant cave area, and that's where you found, like, the genie, and you got to progress a little bit of the story. There was even an achievement associated with it, right? That's gone. And not only is that gone, but, you know, not only don't we have World 3 and World 4, but we don't have any story additions either outside. Remember all that kind of peculiar, weird, interesting talk about exactly how the Super Adventure Books came into being and that really cool mystery? None of that was expanded on, and perhaps then none of that will ever be expanded upon, and those were actually some of the more interesting kind of living worldy stories that we had. That's a bit of a shame. I'm not going to sit here and lament the fact that there's no new world. You got to learn to take the positive here, right, guys? We got Super Adventure Books. They spent the time to recreate it. Actually, again, on the same live stream, it was explained that basically after Heart of Thorns, where the devs had been in, you know, permanent crunch for a long time, as you would be releasing an expansion, ArenaNet kind of gave them 2 weeks of a little bit of downtime, not necessarily, you know, just to slack off, but to do and pursue things that people are very passionate in. And Josh and his team and some of the core devs over there, they were like, right, yes, SAB, we're going to go for it. And it was during this time that they fixed the mechanical issues that had prevented them from bringing it back last year. I actually really liked the bit where Josh mentioned on the stream how some of the devs were like, yeah, we can do it. We can make the extra worlds. Let's go for it. Let's cram it out in just 2 weeks. It's really cool for me to think that the devs are that enthusiastic about it and want to please the audience that badly. But let's be honest, if they had tried to rush out the creation of an entire world in like a month max, it probably wouldn't have been a very good world. And given how critical everyone was when it came back for its second update, the back to school update, I can understand the hesitance, and so yeah. Speaking of the whole, they had to fix SAB to bring it back because of other developments and changes to the way the game engine worked. I was really hoping for more clarification on this on the stream, but we really didn't get very much. We got that hit detection could have been off, the physics engine was, you know, wonky, and there was a big list of things they fixed, and we didn't get any more specifics. Now, I didn't want more direct detail about what they fixed with SAB or what they had to fix, because I don't believe them. I actually thoroughly, wholeheartedly believe them. You guys should remember that a couple of months ago, when the free-to-play offer was actually dropped into the game, that someone managed to bug their way back into SAB. They even produced videos of it, and it quite clearly was entirely broken in there, and things did have to be fixed. I just wanted to know a little bit more of what that necessarily was. And then the other changes as well, minor changes, I don't know what specifically these are. I have played through SAB since it got reintroduced, but it was well known that when the patch came back for the back to school update, one of the things people were very critical of was how much harder World 2 was than World 1. And Josh kind of explained on the stream that, yeah, you know, everyone played SAB World 1 and got very good at it, so they as devs then made World 2 a lot harder, and maybe they missed the mark there. He said that some of those difficulty spikes had been smoothed out. As far as I can tell, the only thing I've seen that's different is some of these geysers that move up and down in the game no longer move up and down. They're just always permanently fixed up. Now, if I kind of assumed that wasn't a thing about making it easier. It does make it easier, but I kind of thought this could have been one of the engine things they changed, but we've had no real word on it as it happens. And so there you go, guys. That is SAB. That was the actual April Fool's update. That's what we got with Guild Wars 2. Don't forget that the next season for PvP is ending on the 18th. I believe that's when SAB gets removed as well. And so all pointers would lead us then to believe the next big patch with the scribing changes and all these things, the spring update, that's going to be coming in at that point. So enjoy SAB while you can. I'd love to hear some discussion about the fact that when we're basically, it seems, not getting World 3 and 4. I've seen so little talk about it. Maybe I've just not looked in the right places, but that was totally new to me when I saw it on the stream today. And I don't know. I do think it's a bit of a shame, but I can understand it. I'd like to hear your opinions anyway, guys. How does that sit with you in the current climate of things? But until tomorrow, I hope you guys enjoy yourself. Get in there, have some fun, and I'll see you next time. So on. they sold as kind of like a few bonus little missions, the bonus mission pack, separately in their old gem store. They sold the players the opportunity to buy a couple more missions. And these missions were set in various areas of the past, told you some interesting stories that previous campaigns had hinted at. I don't think this is going to happen in Guild Wars 2 because, well, they've already found their feet with the Living World idea, right? And if you think about it, for a player who doesn't unlock Living World as it originally releases, it's basically the bonus mission pack format.